Sometimes life gives us lemons. Sometimes it gives us lemonade. Other times it gives us something entirely out of left field that makes us say, WTF. But no matter what obstacles come, there is most often a way out on the other side, and we are once again victorious. My name is Dr. Rowe, and you are listening to my podcast about resilience. Every guest shares a tragedy to triumph story to give listeners like you the inspiration to push through every single day. Listen now as my next guest shares how they were life-jacked.
What do you do when your own body seems to be failing you, causing a challenging interruption to your quality of life? My name is Dr. Rowe, and this is LifeJacked, the Resilience Podcast. LifeJacked is when an unfortunate or unplanned event happens to jack with your life. My guest for this week, Megan Mary, will share how she uses guidance from her dreams to cope after being diagnosed with 3 chronic illnesses. She is a dream analyst and the founder of Women's Dream Analysis. She works with clients all over the world, offering dream interpretation, women's empowerment, transformative journeys, and spiritual awakening guidance. Megan is a member of the International Association for the Study of Dreams and is currently a part of their 2023-2024 Dream Study Group and Foundation Series. She's also been featured as an expert source in Authority Magazine, Parade Magazine, and Very Well Mind. Megan has spent her career creating meaningful change through digital publishing and marketing. However, after being diagnosed with 3 different chronic illnesses, she began reevaluating her life's purpose and started to return to the higher guidance hidden in her dreams. Hi, Megan. Welcome. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So you were diagnosed with not 1, but 3 chronic diseases. How did all of this come about?
So it started with just one, interstitial cystitis, which affects women predominantly and is rather debilitating, has no cure. That I had for many years before I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition. And after having that for a few years, then I became really ill and was diagnosed at the same time with mold illness and chronic Lyme disease. And it really took me down. It really put me in a very difficult and dark space. And the only way that I emerged out of it was really that I started meditating. And that really changed everything for me and led me to what I'm doing now.
Wow. And so I'm assuming that after you of course you received 1 diagnosis, and of course that's going to make a shift or change in you, but then 3. So I know you've mentioned spiritual meditation, but what changes or shifts occurred in your life after getting these diagnoses?
It really was, I call it the perfect storm, but it was anything but, because all of those conditions together really cause a drain in energy, a drain in your mood and your perspective. You can't process as well. You don't have the ability really to do the things in your life that you used to do. And it's very debilitating, and it really can take a lot out of you. And it forced me to really reevaluate what I was spending my time doing and what my trajectory was. And I really had to look inward and start to do that important inner work that really then made me realize that I had a lot of inner guidance, as we all do, that I wasn't listening to.
Yeah, I think that's something that we all deal with, is like really listening to ourselves inside. And so as you started doing this deeper work and listening to yourself, how did it affect how you approached life?
I would say that it reminded me of a view that I had as a child. So when we're younger, we really feel closer to the spirit world, to different realities, to different things. We believe in a lot of fantasy things, and it all blends together with our waking life, and we don't really see the separation. And as we get older, we start to compartmentalize things, and we start to change the way that we view the world, mostly from either the people that are around us or from society's expectations. And we start to quiet what maybe would have been our innate viewpoint. And so I feel that when I started doing that inner work and I started opening myself up spiritually, that I completely reconnected with my intuition and with the sense that I innately had inside that there is more than what meets the eye to this world, and that there's more than this world, and that much of what we experience is from our own perceptions. It's the illusion that we trap ourselves in.
Wow. And as you were doing this inner work and connecting to your intuition and integrating your mind and body, I guess, was this work just solely you by yourself, or did you have a support system? Was there anyone that helped you through after you learned about the third diagnosis, right? So was it all just you alone?
I think that I, of course, had a team of medical professionals that were trying to help me and figure out what my different problems were. And so from a medical side, I had that. But I've also been fortunate to have many different physical therapists that have helped me along the way. And, of course, my family and friends. But I feel like what the path that this led me on was really one I walked alone for, and one that I felt called to go in a direction that I didn't feel like I could really take anyone with me or explain to anyone what I was doing. It was just something I almost couldn't explain to myself, but something I felt emphatically that I had to do. And there was a lot of urgency around it as well. And so it really was a self-discovery path that I walked as a result of really an unfortunate situation where my health was really being compromised, and I had to do something. So I had to start doing my inner work, my mind and spirit work, so that the work that the medical community was helping me with in my body was actually integrated wholly.
So I guess it's true what they say, when you never really know how strong you truly are until you have to be. Yes. If you say doing this by yourself, right? Oh my gosh. And you realize, like, it's you that has to do this work, right? And so how did you truly push through after learning these setbacks, in a sense? Like, it's jacking with your life, right? So how did you push through?
Yes. Well, like anything, it was difficult, right? And there's a lot of tendency, and I'll be the first to admit it, to feel like, why is all this happening to me? And the woe is me situation, and feeling like you're at the whim of the universe and you can't control it. And I think when we start to shift our perception and we start to realize that things happen for a reason, and ask what is good in this, what could this be leading me to, you start to appreciate some of the things that you go through. And the struggles become gifts when you share them.
That's absolutely true. I can see that. That's why I have this resilience podcast, because I've always been told I'm super resilient, and it's things that I love talking about. So you've mentioned before doing the inner work and connecting your mind and your body. And so I know that you do dream analysis. You're a dream analyst. You're a founder of the Women's Dream Analysis. Can you explain to the listeners a little bit about what dream interpretation is? And you can also share what it's not.
Yes. So dream interpretation in a general sense is taking the content of a dream and putting a meaning on it. And traditionally, we think of that as being a very universal approach. So when we look at dream dictionaries, we look at cultural archetypes, for example, and we say that one symbol in a dream is the same for everybody. And what I do in dream analysis is different because I don't want to just put one meaning on everyone's dream. I want to empower the dreamer to discover their own true meaning that might be completely different for someone else. And so that is also part of my process, and my method really pulls out those threads from the subconscious and pulls them into the conscious so that you can decode the dreams and discover your own dream language. And when you learn that, then you're able to decipher the messages in the dreams that are meant just for you and take action on them. So it's really, I call it the ultimate women's self-care for that reason, because I feel that when we turn inwards and we start to listen to our own inner guidance, we really empower ourselves with our own intuition.
In this work that you've done, have you found that there is some interconnectedness with our dreams? Like, is there like a common dream that a lot of people have?
There definitely are common dreams, and particularly amongst women, there's common themes. But what makes them different is really the important aspect, because someone might say, well, I had a dream I was being chased, or I had a dream I lost my phone, or I had a dream I was taking a test, okay, or that my teeth were falling out. Those are all very common themed dreams. But when you start to write down the detail of that dream, yours is completely different. What were you wearing? Where were you? Who was there? What was the action? What was the weather? What colors did you see? What did you experience emotionally in that moment? And that's going to be completely different from one person to the other.
Wow, and you mentioned that teeth falling out. Is that a common dream? Oh, my goodness.
Yes, it is.
Now, could you share a little bit about the process that you take each of your clients through? The tapping into their dreams, is it that you interpret, well, again, you said that really it's about them, what they kind of, and you kind of do the analysis, that they kind of really draw what they need to from it on their own, that they draw their own conclusions. But what is the true, like, take us through a step-by-step process.
Yes, and there's actually 4 steps to my method, which is called the Dream Mirror Method. And the 4 steps are memory, mood, mirror, and metaphor. And so the first step is memory, and that's just basically recalling your dreams, starting to keep a habit of keeping a dream journal and recalling your dream. Initially, I'll ask you to give your dream a title as if it were a story. That's the only time I want you to summarize it, because the rest of the record, I would like all the details, as much as you possibly can remember about that dream, because every detail is another clue. Now, the second step is mood, and that's where, as part of your dream record, I ask you to record the dream, the emotion that you had when you went to sleep, the emotion that you had during the dream, and then the emotion that you experienced upon waking up. Because those can all be different, and the mood can shift throughout the dream as the scenes change. And the mood can really give us a giant introspective into the theme of the dream. Step 3 is mirror, and that is where it's very different from a dictionary, because I try to serve as a mirror to you, to your subconscious. And by asking a series of questions about the people, places, situations, and actions, I help you draw out your own personal associations about those things. So rather than looking in the dream dictionary for that definition, it becomes your own definition in your own lexicon of your dream. And then the fourth step is metaphor. And that's where we look at the whole storyline of the dream as a metaphor for something in your waking life. So rather than a literal interpretation, it's more like a parable with a message or a lesson from that story.
Through these 4 steps, you're able to help women really kind of tap into their inner selves, connect themselves, and if they are dealing with some type of struggle or stress, illness, like yourself, what exactly can happen for them?
Lots of aha moments, yes, where they come in with a dream and they're not even really sure they want to work on this dream because they feel like maybe it doesn't contain any information that's relevant to them. And then as we start decoding it and we start breaking it down, all these big light bulb moments where they say, I would have never thought, now I see, of course. Why didn't I see that? I would have never thought that. And really start to open the mind to the transformation that can happen when you bring those subconscious elements into the conscious, because then you have an opportunity to integrate it, right? And that's the whole point of self-help or any kind of personal growth strategy, is to uncover your own blocks, perspectives, whatever might be informing your waking life, so that you can transform that and live a more fuller and more informed life.
Wow, that's awesome. And so now thinking about you. So 10 years ago, being diagnosed with one of your illnesses, I think it was the interstitial cystitis, and then you received a second diagnosis and a third diagnosis. And so from then, at that point, and then you start doing this inner work. So how are you now?
So now I'm happy to say that my chronic Lyme disease is in remission, which is an amazing thing, and I've really gotten so much more of, obviously, my mental capacity back and my energy back and my optimism, and it's all a healing journey, because the cystitis does not have a cure, and so I still advocate very much for the research around that, because it's very difficult for all the millions of women that suffer from that. And my thyroiditis has gotten under control. It was really off the charts. And so, medically, there's a lot of things with my body that are in a better place. But it's also all of the inner work that I'm doing. And I'm really diving deep in, as so many healers and people who work in the spiritual arena do, to do their own work, to really make sure that you're unearthing all of your shadows and that you're integrating them so you can move forward, and really trying to get that clearer picture of how you can be in best alignment with your inner guidance. For myself.
Well, I applaud you, Megan, for doing that work on yourself, because sometimes it can be incredibly difficult. I salute you. That's amazing. So for you, what's next in your life journey?
So my vision is really to be able to create a academy, if you will, where other women, both women who are working as counselors or providers or practitioners for healing, as well as just other women who feel called to come in and be mentored and licensed as a dream mirror guide. And that ideally is my bigger vision for spreading this transformative method around the world, because I want to really empower all women to realize that they can do this themselves, and also to have other providers integrate it with their modalities, because it very much complements so many of the other energy work and healing modalities that are out there right now.
Wonderful. Well, Megan, in your opinion, what are the best ways to build resilience?
I feel to really be truly resilient in yourself, you need to trust and love and value yourself. And that comes from listening to your inner voice, giving more power to that inner voice and that inner guidance that so often we dismiss and we question ourselves and we put our doubts and our fears before what we really feel aligned with. And when we're able to value and appreciate and take the time to do the self-care, that is how we ultimately become the most resilient, because we realize that it's up to us to make sure that we can constantly be transforming, and it's up to us to listen to that inner voice.
And I love that you mentioned self-care. Self-care is so important for women, for men, for everyone really, that, it's just to take care of yourself. They say put your oxygen mask on first, right, before you go out to help, anyone else. But I'm just so glad that you mentioned the importance of self-care, because it is definitely important. Is there any self-care regimen that you have that you would like to share with the listeners?
I do have several things that I do every day, and these are things that I integrate into my healing for other people as well, because they've worked so well for me. So every day I journal and I meditate. And I also like to have part of my regular practice be listening to affirmations as well as sound frequency music, because music can be extremely healing and we don't give it enough credit. We don't realize that vibrationally it can really change our frequency without us really having to effort and try to do that. It's a beautiful, very accessible healing modality.
Well, Megan, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. I wish you nothing but blessings. Can you take the time and let everyone know how they can purchase a copy of your book or contact you for dream analysis?
Yes, so I can be found at womensdreamanalysis.com, and there you can book a discovery call with me, a dream session. I also have dream journeys, which are a series of sessions. I also offer online self-paced courses where you can learn the elements of the method that we've talked about today and try it out for yourself. And I have the Women's Dream Collective community, which is a place where all women can gather, seek, share, and support each other, and attend dream circles. I also have a podcast called Women's Dream Enlightenment Podcast, and on there I do dream interpretations. And I also invite other women on to tell their stories of spiritual awakening.
Love it. Any last words of encouragement for the listeners in case they find themselves life-jacked, or if there are persons like you who have been diagnosed with the same illnesses?
Yes, my advice would be to start to appreciate your dreams and start to also value your inner voice. And when you take the time to have a silent moment each day where you quiet the noise, you can start to tap into your own intuition. And the more power you give it, the stronger it will become. And it can become your guiding light, really. And that is my hope through this dream work, is to just awaken the possibilities within people and help them on their path.
Amazing. Megan, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. Please take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I surely hope you enjoyed this episode for this week. If you would like to connect with me so you won't miss an episode, please connect with me on LinkedIn, Dr. Renika Jacobs, or you can find me on Instagram at Resilient Dr. Rowe. See you in the next episode.